Hello, today I'm going to give you 6 tips to help you ease into an expat lifestyle. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Patricia Brooks, and almost 7 years ago, I made my move to the south of France. And now I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives, living and thriving in their dream countries. And on this channel, I talk about my life in France, about making a move abroad, and how to dig down deep to find that confidence and courage that you know you have deep inside you that will allow you to experience life as you know you were meant to. And today I'm going to talk about the discomforts of moving abroad and living abroad and how to move through those more easily. And I'm going to give you 6 things that can help you do that. Now, the first one is something quite simple, but it was not something that I considered. I learned this from one of the members of my program, the Carefree Expat Incubator program. And she shared that before she moved abroad, she was intentional about packing that candle that had the scent that really felt like home to her. And she also packed her favorite teas so that when she got to an apartment that she had picked out, that would be her new home, she'd have some of the comforts of home. And so she did that, and that really eased her way. Now, that's not something I did. However, when I moved back in 2018, I did ship over a small box for $400 back then, and it included this blanket that I had purchased for my mom the year before she died. And it was a blanket that was one that it was almost like a Snuggie, but it was higher quality. And I bought it, and the year I bought it, I thought, oh, this is a little bit more than I want to spend for a blanket. But I did. And that blanket, my mom lay under on her deathbed. And she lay under it. I had brought my cat Tabitha to Willingboro, New Jersey to be with my mom as she was in her last days. And my cat Tabitha, she lay on top of that blanket. And that was a blanket that I chose to ship to France to be with me. And so it's on my bed today, and it is so very comforting. I think that we can discount the effect that having things that are important to us, that mean something to us, that comfort us in our lives. But they're important and they help ease things. The second thing is something that's internal to you. We all have something that guides us. Now, whether you're religious or spiritual, if you have a spirit animal, there's something that guides and anchors you. And getting to understand what that is and knowing that you can have faith and trust in that is something that will help you, will take you far when you move to a foreign country where things are challenging, where things are hard, where maybe you're starting a new business like I did, and you're not really sure if you're going to be successful. And being successful is the key for you to stay in that country. I know that in my first year in France, I was really happy that I made the move. However, I felt challenged to keep my mindset straight. I had left a good paying job in the States. I was living off my savings. I had taken a career break. And so my mind was telling me, you shouldn't have done that. And I doubted. I started to doubt myself. France was the place I needed to be, but logically, it didn't make any sense. And so I had this tug of war going on, back and forth for the first several months of my life. I remember toward the end of my first year, struggling to kind of figure out, how am I going to support myself here? And I was thinking about different business ideas I could do, and it felt so hard. I was detached from that thing that guides me, from my spirituality. I am a spiritual person. But in my second year, when I moved into my apartment, I moved from Perpignan to a small village called Sarre, and I moved into my apartment, and it has this amazing view of mountains on 3 sides. And I stepped out onto the balcony with my good friend Jordi, who helped me with my move from Perpignan to Sarre. And I remember this was the first day that I was in my apartment. I remember just kind of relaxing into that feeling that, oh, everything's going to be all right. That the mountains felt like I was being cradled in the arms of God, and that everything was going to be all right. And in that moment, I didn't know how things were going to work out. I didn't have a business. I didn't have a business idea. I was still living off savings, but I knew that everything was going to be all right. And that took the edge off. My second year, things flowed much more easily, and things wound up working out. So having a guide that anchors you in a belief that things will be okay is something that helps to comfort you in hard times, because there are hard times when you make a move abroad, undoubtedly. Now, one of those things that I find challenging, even now, 7 years in, is the medical situation. It's great. I have the carte vitale, so I have health insurance. It's affordable. But where I am is a little bit of a medical desert. And I last year struggled to find a doctor, and I found one that was about 15 or 20 miles away. And he was okay. I was able to get my prescriptions filled. And then 2 months ago, I found a doctor who is in Surrey. He's brand new. And I was so excited. It was like I had won the lottery. And so I scheduled my appointment. I went in. I had high hopes. And it seemed like, well, maybe he would work out. Well, I had my second appointment. And I was underwhelmed with his knowledge or what he was telling me, because I have this thyroid problem I've had for 20 years, and I'm on medication and it's regulated, but in June things kind of went a little haywire with it, and I needed to adjust the medicine. And the way he was adjusting the medication kind of was a red flag for me. And so now I find that something that I'm thinking about often is like, okay, now I don't have confidence in this doctor. What do I do? In the States, I understand there's some areas that are medical deserts and that this is a struggle, but this was not anything that I had to deal with. And so now this is a very real concern for me, being in a foreign country, going to a doctor and speaking French, because he speaks only a few words and phrases in English, and really advocating for myself. I can advocate for myself all day long in English, right? It's my mother tongue. But in French, I'm a little bit more hesitant. My personality is a little bit different than it is in French. And so that is a struggle that I face. But one of the things that helps me to move through this discomfort or frustration is that I know that with time and some effort, this too will pass, that I will get through this and be on the other side of it, and things will be okay. Now, that's a little bit based on that foundational spirituality, but it's also based on my personal experience. I've been in hard times before, in difficult situations before, thinking, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get through it? And then I do. And those issues fade into the background, and I'm on to the next thing, right? So that recognition that time and some effort laced with positive emotions will get me through this more easily. And I emphasize positive emotions because we all have to put forth some effort in life. But if we are putting forth effort and it's laced with those negative emotions, which is what I call struggle, which was what Stuart Wilde called struggle, then it's harder and it can make things worse in that moment. And then recognizing that, again, this too shall pass. So I know that I will find a doctor who is suitable for me. I know that I will get my meds. I know how I'm going to handle this situation. It's just not the way that I would like it to be. So time and effort laced with positive emotion will save the day. And that means you got to be patient. So what I do with the people who I coach is I help them to build the mindset and the behaviors and the habits so that they are more resilient and they have the patience and the belief in themselves that they can make a move abroad happen. And if you are planning to make a move abroad in the next 6 months to 2 years and would like some help or some support in building this resilience, building that muscle of moving through things when they're hard and moving through them in a way that feels good, then be sure to schedule a complimentary discovery call with me where we can talk about your plans to move abroad and where you are in the process and the things that might be hanging you up in that process. I'm going to put a link to that in the description. Okay? So that's the third thing, knowing that time and effort laced with positive emotions will get you through. Now, number 4 has to do with having support. Now, whether it's having a friend who you can share your thoughts with as a sounding board, or a coach, or maybe even a therapist as you're going through things that feel hard to you is indispensable. To keep the thoughts that you have going on in your head just swirling around is a recipe for not being in a good headspace. And so I highly recommend being sure to have the support that you need to get through. I know that I have friends here in France who help me, right? I have friends back in the States who I talk to from time to time where I can share things and I know they understand me and they get me. And from time to time, I hire my own coaches. I have a business coach that helps me with the things that I'm going through in my coaching practice. You know, when I'm struggling, when I'm having a month or two that's a little dry, I, can share what's going on and I can get some new ideas to work through them. And so I'm not dealing with it all by myself. So recognizing that help is out there and that asking for help is not a bad thing, that you're not a weak person. Actually, you are stronger for being able to do that. So that is number 4. Number 5 is something you have to be careful with, but it is indeed helpful. And that is to create routines that give you a sense of control. I think sometimes when we are out of our comfort zone, when we're living in a foreign country and everything is so new and different, we long for something that feels safe and normal and secure. And so creating habits and routines that you can look forward to doing can provide that. But I caveat this because if you start to do routine for routine's sake, then you can feel obligated to them and they can start to feel hard. And that is not necessarily going to help you with discomfort, because if you do something that's hard, then it's uncomfortable. And if you're living in a new place and everything is new and fresh, then adding something that you really don't want to do, but you feel obligated to, is just going to pile on. So when I had a routine, and I still do, of getting up in the morning and going on my morning walk. That is something that I do every day. And when I was finishing up my draft of my 3rd book, I would get up and I would write every day. Before I'd go to bed, I would write. And these were things that in the beginning were something that I was like, oh, I have to do this thing. But I started to look forward to it. It's like, oh, what am I going to uncover today? Or what am I going to experience on my morning walks? This was something that I did in the beginning when I was losing weight. So the routines can take on different meanings and different points in your life. But being aware also when they start to be a hindrance and they start to be an obligation. But they can give you that structure that you need to feel like you've got this certainty, this thing to look forward to. And finally, the 6th thing on my list that will help you to ease into an expat life and feel more steady and stable when you are out of your element, when you're out of your comfort zone so completely, is self-care. I was recently on a retreat with my group, the Carefree Expat Incubator, and I was in Valencia, Spain. And every morning I went down to the cafeteria they had next to the lobby. And I did this, didn't go to the buffet that had all of the good foods, the sausages and what have you, because I can't tolerate a lot of salt. And so at that cafeteria, I could order my omelet and I could order things that were low sodium. And that was something that I could do for myself. And there was this waitress who was amazing. She had a great demeanor, a great energy about her. And the thing that I feel like was self-care for me there was that I would order my breakfast at the bar and she knew me. She started to get to know me over just the course of a few days of what I was going to order. And it was a great experience. And then I'd sit down at a table, I'd pick a table, and then she'd come over with the placemat and the utensils. And then she would lovingly place that placemat in front of me and she'd make sure it was even, right, with the edge of the table. I mean, she was so caring when she did it. At the end of my 6 days there, or however long I was there, 4 days there, I had to stop and thank her for her service, for her caring nature. And I found that to be so wonderful, that self-care. And when I got back just last week, I decided I was going to set my own table and make a nice space for myself. And that was self-care. And it feels so good to eat my meals at the table, set nicely for me. And it's not something that I've done in the past. I heard about doing this through Weight Watchers, making a meal, an event that you savor and enjoy, that you're not rushing through, so that you feel satiated in that way as well. And I think that can help as you are, transitioning into a new life in your new country. So those are 6 ways that you can add some comforts to your life when you are transitioning into a new country where things feel so foreign and overwhelming and frustrating, and where you're not so quite sure of yourself. Let me know which one of these speaks to you most, and if you have other things that could help comfort people as they make this transition, let me know in the comments. All right, that is all I have for you today. Hopefully this was helpful. If you enjoyed this, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, subscribe, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.